In the dense heart of the African jungle, legends whispered of a giant serpent that roamed the earth with unparalleled power and grace. The locals called it Nguna, meaning the king of the earth. It was said to be as old as the land itself, with scales that shimmered like emeralds under the sun. For centuries, Nguna was a creature of mystery, seen only in the shadows of the jungle, leaving behind a trail of awe and fear. The elders spoke of its ability to control the elements, summoning storms or stilling the winds with a flick of its tail. Some claimed it was the guardian of the jungle, protecting its creatures from any who dared disrupt the delicate balance of nature. But one day, a group of hunters, eager to prove their bravery and claim the riches of such a legendary beast, set out to capture Nguna. They ventured deep into the jungle armed with spears and cunning traps, convinced they could outsmart the ancient serpent. As they trekked further, the jungle seemed to grow eerily quiet. No birds sang, no animals moved. It was as if the very earth held its breath. The hunters finally found the serpent, coiled around a massive tree, its eyes glowing like twin orbs of fire. It was more magnificent than they could have ever imagined, its body long enough to encircle the tallest trees, its presence commanding and serene. But before they could strike, the ground trembled. The sky darkened and a storm erupted from nowhere. Lightning flashed and thunder rumbled as Nguna uncoiled with the power of a mountain crashing down. It hissed once, sending the hunters scattering, their spears forgotten in the chaos. The legend of Nguna grew, for it was not just a snake. It was the embodiment of nature itself, untamable and unstoppable. And from that day on, no one dared challenge the giant serpent, for the jungle had made it clear. Some legends are meant to remain untouched. Years passed, and the tale of Nguna became more than just a story. It became a warning. The jungle, once a place of reverence, was now shrouded in fear. The villagers, once bold enough to venture into its depths, now stayed close to the edges of the forest, afraid that Nguna might seek retribution for the hunter's arrogance. But deep within the jungle, a young boy named Kofi grew curious. He had heard the stories of Nguna from his elders, and though fear lingered in his heart, there was something within him that yearned to understand the truth of the serpent. Kofi's father, a wise man, had always told him, "Respect nature and nature will respect you." But Kofi felt that respect could only come from truly knowing the forces that shaped the land. One evening, Kofi set out, determined to find Nguna. Armed with only a humble spear and a prayer, he ventured into the heart of the jungle, guided by the glow of the moon and his growing sense of wonder. Days passed as he navigated the labyrinth of towering trees and thick vines. He faced challenges, swamps that threatened to swallow him whole, wild animals that prowled the darkness, and storms that seemed to rise from the earth itself. But Kofi persisted. His heart was filled not with fear, but with a desire to understand the spirit of the jungle and the legend of Nguna. Eventually, after what seemed like an eternity, he found himself standing at the base of the giant tree where the serpent had once been seen. It was there, coiled around the roots of the tree, that Nguna appeared once again. Its eyes glimmered like stars in the night sky, its massive body winding through the earth in slow, deliberate movements. Kofi stood still, not daring to breathe too loudly, afraid that the slightest movement would provoke the giant beast. For a long while, neither the serpent nor the boy moved. Then, in a voice that resonated like thunder, Nguna spoke, "You have come to seek me, young one." "But why?" Kofi, trembling but steady, answered, "I seek not to challenge you, mighty serpent. I seek only to understand, to know why you guard this jungle and why you are feared." Nguna's eyes softened, and a deep rumble escaped from its throat. "I guard the jungle because it is my home. I protect it from those who would destroy what is sacred. The balance of life is delicate, and those who fail to see its importance are the ones who fall." Kofi, now more confident, nodded. "Then I will share this wisdom with others. I will tell them the jungle is not to be feared, but respected. Not to be conquered, but protected." Nguna studied him for a long moment before nodding slowly. "You are wise, child. The jungle is a living thing, and its heart beats in all of us. May your voice be the wind that carries this truth." With that, the serpent uncoiled and slithered back into the jungle, disappearing into the shadows once more. Kofi returned to his village, his heart heavy with the responsibility of the knowledge he now carried. He became the new keeper of the jungle's stories, sharing the tale of Nguna not as a creature to be feared, but as a symbol of the sacred connection between all life. And from that day on, the people of the village no longer feared the jungle. They honored it, and in return, the jungle thrived, as did its greatest guardian, Nguna, the ancient serpent, whose spirit lived on in every leaf, every storm, and every heartbeat of the earth. Years passed, and Kofi became a wise man, the guardian of the jungle's secrets. His name spread far and wide, and people from neighboring villages sought his counsel. They no longer came to him with fear of Nguna, but with a deep respect for the jungle and the balance of life that Kofi had come to understand. He taught them that the jungle was not an enemy, but a partner in their survival. One fateful day, a new group of outsiders arrived. They were explorers, scientists from distant lands, eager to study the jungle's rare flora and fauna. They brought with them advanced tools and machines, intent on documenting and cataloging the jungle's every secret. Their eyes glinted with ambition, believing they could conquer the jungle's mysteries and claim its riches. Kofi watched them from a distance, troubled by their presence. Though they had not come to harm the jungle, their actions seemed to disturb its delicate balance. They trampled through the undergrowth, ripped out plants for study, and marked trees for mapping. Kofi could feel the jungle's heart growing restless. One evening, as the explorers set up camp near the giant tree where Nguna had once been seen, Kofi ventured into the jungle once again. This time, he did not go alone. Nguna had sensed the disturbance and had silently followed him, its massive form hidden in the shadows. Kofi reached the explorers' camp, where they were preparing to cut down an ancient tree to collect its rare bark. He stepped forward, his voice carrying the weight of years spent in the jungle. "You are not welcome here," he said firmly. The explorers looked at him with curiosity, then amusement. "We are here to learn, not to harm," one of them said. "The jungle is full of wonders that could benefit the world. Do you not see the potential?" Kofi shook his head. "The potential lies not in what you can take from the jungle, but in what you can learn to give back. This is not a place for you to exploit. The jungle is alive, and it will not tolerate those who seek to take more than they give." At that moment, Nguna slithered into the clearing, its presence overwhelming. The explorers froze, their eyes wide with fear. The serpent's enormous form seemed to stretch for miles, its eyes glowing like twin suns. Kofi stood between the serpent and the explorers. "This is Nguna, the guardian of this land. You have disturbed its peace, and now you must leave." The explorers, now visibly shaken, scrambled to pack their equipment, realizing that no technology or science could ever rival the power of the jungle's ancient forces. They left without protest, their dreams of fame and fortune dashed. As they retreated, Kofi turned to Nguna and bowed his head in gratitude. "Thank you, my friend. You have once again protected this sacred land." Nguna lowered its massive head, its eyes softening. "You are the true protector now, Kofi. Your wisdom has saved the jungle, and your heart is pure. It is time for me to return to the depths of the earth where I belong." With those final words, the giant serpent slowly retreated into the jungle, disappearing into the darkness, its presence fading like a dream. Kofi returned to his village more determined than ever to preserve the delicate balance of life in the jungle. He continued to share his knowledge with others, teaching them not only about the jungle but about the respect all living things deserved. The people learned that to live in harmony with nature was the only way to ensure their survival. The legend of Nguna lived on, but no longer as a tale of fear and awe. It became a story of respect, of wisdom passed down through the ages. And whenever the storms would come, the people would remember the giant serpent, knowing that the earth had its guardians, silent, powerful, and ever watchful. As the years passed, Kofi's teachings spread throughout the neighboring villages and even beyond. His wisdom reached the farthest corners of the land, and the jungle began to thrive in ways it had never before. The people no longer viewed it as a place to be conquered, but as a living entity, a partner that needed care and respect. They planted trees, protected animals, and only harvested what was necessary. In return, the jungle gave them abundance, shelter, and a sense of peace. However, the world beyond the jungle was changing rapidly. The modern world was expanding, and people, eager to profit from the jungle's resources, began to push the boundaries. The great forests were slowly being cut down to make way for roads, and the animals, once abundant, began to vanish from their habitats. Villages near the jungle felt the creeping threat of industrialization, and the delicate balance Kofi had fought so hard to maintain was now at risk once again. One day, Kofi stood at the edge of the jungle looking out over the horizon. His heart ached as he saw the first signs of deforestation creeping closer. His mind was filled with the wisdom of the past, but also with the worry that the jungle could not stand against the encroaching world forever. He wondered if the time had come to pass on the guardianship to a new generation, to make sure that Nguna's legacy was not lost in the winds of change. It was then that he heard a familiar rustle in the trees behind him. He turned slowly, knowing what he would find. There, standing like a shadow amidst the foliage, was Nguna, the great serpent. Its scales shimmered faintly in the dying light of the day, its presence both comforting and intimidating. "Nguna," Kofi said, his voice soft. "I fear the jungle's heart is growing weaker. The world outside is pushing against us. Can we still protect this land?" The serpent, now much older than Kofi had ever imagined, lowered its massive head before him. "The jungle's heart beats in all those who understand its rhythm, Kofi. It is not only my strength that keeps it alive, but yours as well, and the strength of the people who honor it. But the time has come to choose the next protector, the one who will carry the flame of respect for generations to come." Kofi nodded slowly, understanding the weight of the responsibility. "I will find them," he whispered. "I will find the one who can hear the jungle's heartbeat and protect its soul." Nguna's eyes glowed brighter, as though reflecting the depth of time itself. "Do not seek me when you choose, Kofi. For the true protector is not one who looks for power, but one who listens with a heart pure and attuned to the land. The jungle will guide you." And with that, the serpent turned, slithering silently into the deep jungle, vanishing once more into the shadows from which it had come. Kofi's mission had become clear. He would seek out a new protector, someone with the spirit of the jungle running through their veins. He would pass on the knowledge, the stories, and the wisdom, not through force, but through trust and understanding. He knew that the struggle would not be easy, but as long as there were those who listened to the jungle's voice, there would always be hope. Years later, as the land continued to change, Kofi found a young girl, a child with a deep connection to the land. Her name was Amma, and like Kofi in his youth, she had felt the pulse of the jungle in her heart. When he met her, she was sitting quietly beneath the giant tree where Nguna had once appeared. The jungle seemed to hum with life around her, and Kofi knew in that moment that the future of the jungle was in good hands. He passed on everything he had learned, and Amma listened intently, her eyes wide with wonder and respect. She became the next guardian, walking in Kofi's footsteps, but forging her own path as she learned to listen to the whispers of the wind, the rustle of the leaves, and the call of the animals. The jungle, with Amma's guidance, began to heal from the threats of the outside world, finding new ways to coexist with the modern age without losing its essence. And so the legend of Nguna lived on, not as a story of fear, but as a tale of harmony, respect, and the eternal bond between humanity and nature. The great serpent spirit lingered in the jungle, watching over its new protector, knowing that as long as the jungle was cared for, its heart would never cease to beat. As Amma grew older, her bond with the jungle deepened, and the wisdom passed down to her by Kofi became the foundation of her leadership. Her presence in the jungle was felt by all who lived within its borders. Plants flourished more vibrantly, animals returned in greater numbers, and even the air seemed to hum with a quiet energy. Amma's voice was now the wind that carried the stories of the jungle, and the people too began to understand the true depth of their connection to the land. But with her growing influence came greater challenges. Outside forces more aggressive and determined than ever before began to push further into the jungle. Mining companies, developers, and governments, with visions of progress, threatened to tear apart the very heart of the land that Amma had vowed to protect. Roads were being cut through the forest, rivers diverted for hydroelectric projects, and the ancient trees that had stood for centuries were felled one by one. Amma knew that she could not stand by and watch the jungle's soul be erased, and she had learned long ago that mere words and pleas for mercy were not enough to stop the tide of progress. So she turned to the wisdom of Kofi and Nguna. She knew that the jungle was not just a place, but a living, breathing force, and it needed to be protected with the strength of the earth itself. One fateful day, as the sun began to set over the sprawling jungle, Amma walked deep into the heart of the forest, her feet barely making a sound on the soft earth. She reached the giant tree, the same one where Kofi and Nguna had once met, and there she waited. The wind carried whispers of the past, and she closed her eyes, feeling the heartbeat of the land. And then, just as it had happened with Kofi, the ground trembled, and Nguna appeared, emerging from the depths of the jungle like a living legend. Its massive body was even more majestic now, with scales that seemed to shimmer with the light of stars. It glided silently, its eyes glowing with a deep, ancient wisdom. Amma stood before the serpent, her heart filled with both awe and determination. "I am ready," she said, her voice steady, "to protect the jungle as you and Kofi did, but I will need your help. The world outside is relentless, and it seeks to destroy what is sacred. I cannot do this alone." Guna's gaze softened, its enormous head lowering to meet her eye level. "You are not alone, Amma. The jungle is with you. But you must remember, power does not lie in force alone. True strength lies in unity. When the jungle and its people are one, nothing can break the bond. It is time for the final test." Amma nodded, understanding the gravity of the moment. She had heard the stories of the ancient tests that the guardians before her had faced. Now it was her turn to prove that she could truly protect the land. With a great surge of energy, Nguna moved to the heart of the jungle and Amma followed, feeling the earth beneath her feet come alive with each step. The air thickened, and the trees seemed to lean closer, their leaves trembling. Nguna led her to a sacred grove where the roots of the trees were intertwined with the very essence of the earth itself. At the center stood a stone altar, ancient and weathered by time. Nguna spoke softly, "Here, in this sacred place, you will face the test. You must call upon the spirit of the jungle and prove your bond to it. If the land responds to you, it will grant you the strength to protect it. But if you fail, the land will turn away, and all will be lost." Amma stepped forward, her heart racing but her resolve firm. She closed her eyes and placed her hands on the stone altar, reaching deep into the earth. She felt the pulse of life beneath her, the beating heart of the jungle, and in that moment, she could feel the spirit of Nguna surrounding her, an energy so vast, so ancient, that it seemed to fill every corner of the earth. She called out to the spirit of the jungle, her voice clear and strong. "I am the protector. I will honor this land with all that I am. I will fight for the balance, the life, and the soul of the jungle. Let me be your guardian. Let me carry your strength." A silence fell over the grove, and for a long moment, nothing moved. Then, slowly, the earth began to shake, and a brilliant light erupted from the stone altar. The roots of the trees stretched outward, their leaves glowing with the power of the jungle. The sky darkened as the spirit of the land responded to her call, and Amma felt the connection to the jungle become one with her very being. The test had been passed. Nguna slithered forward, its eyes proud. "You are now the true guardian, Amma. The jungle is yours to protect, and its strength will be with you. But remember, when the balance of nature is threatened, the jungle will call, and you must answer. There will be many trials ahead, but you are never alone." Amma nodded, understanding the responsibility that now lay on her shoulders. With Nguna by her side, she knew that the jungle would not just survive, it would thrive, as long as its spirit was honored and its protector remained strong. The battle for the jungle was far from over, but Amma stood ready. She had the power of the jungle in her heart, the wisdom of Nguna guiding her, and the unity of the people who had learned to live in harmony with the land. Together they would face the future, and the jungle's soul would endure, untamed and unstoppable for generations to come.